King of the
Welcome to the Metal Boys. Today on the show, the one, the only Jeff Waters from Annihilator. Jeff, what's happening?
Not much. Getting ready for another show in Montreal. Another, meaning only like 3 or 4 in our whole career, but at least we're doing another show.
There's this massive tour that's going to happen in Europe. Okay, you've done the Canadian dates. You're almost done. You're doing Cornwall. You got 2 dates in Cornwall.
That's it.
Tonight, Montreal. And then you're going off to Europe and you're playing with Death Angel, Testament, and of course Annihilator. Will this tour, this massive, amazing tour with Testament and Death Angel, come to the United States?
I doubt it with Annihilator, but we'd love to. I mean, it'd be fantastic. There's talk about Judas Priest and some other things going on, so we'll see what happens. But I think we'll get back soon to the U.S. and Canada again.
All right, well, I mean, is it possible to get this package?
That's going to be up to Testament.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
So we'll have to bother Testament about that.
Yeah.
New album. Right after, we talked in April. In April, you said, before I get on this Canadian tour, this album will be finished. The recording process will be finished.
Yeah.
Is it finished now?
Yeah, I finished the 16th studio Annihilator CD. I finished about 3 days before everybody flew in to rehearse for the month-long Canadian tour. So it was kind of exciting to finish that up, have a day or 2 off, and then bang, jump on the bus and cross Canada. So, and it's been a great Canadian tour too. It was quite a, let's just say I wasn't too sure how that was going to go over. We didn't have any support from, labels and tour agencies, and that I basically put it on myself. And we were quite amazed at the success in the central and the western parts of Canada. We were kind of blown away. Waterloo and Toronto as well. And so.
Do you think awareness of Annihilator has come from downloading, the whole downloading era that we're living?
Partially. I mean, metal fans, real, whatever that means, dedicated metal fans, whether it's heavy metal, thrash metal, or whatever style. Of course, with the internet, you can seek out other bands that you may not have heard in the mainstream or that are being kind of played on certain stations that have to be played. You get to track down old school bands you hadn't heard of before, and other bands that may, like us, who have had success or continued success in other parts of the world but haven't been able to come back to our own continent really very much.
So in other words, has it helped or hurt Annihilator in the grand scheme of things?
The internet?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's helped. Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of people will complain about lack of sales of physical CDs and that, but from where Annihilator's done our touring and had our long career in Europe and Japan, CDs do matter. It's not just, iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff. Physical CDs matter. So over there, you'll get these massive festivals, 100 festivals every summer that are huge metal festivals only, and you can't play them unless you have CD sales and CDs in stores. So it didn't hurt us because North America hasn't been our market, so to speak. But it sure has helped us for the fans in North America that don't really know much about us and are finding us on the internet.
The new album. You're in the packaging stage right now?
Yeah, it's just waiting for the final booklet stuff and we're done.
All right, so when we spoke in April, you said it's going to be very similar to the first 2 albums. Did that actually happen? So you're still kind of like wrapping it up back then. Did it actually come out that way? Is it sounding like the first 2 albums? What would you say, if you pick all the albums of your career, what is the mix of what it's going to sound like?
I'd say Alice in Hell and Set the World on Fire.
Okay.
I think those are the 2. Probably the first 3. Probably the first 3 records. It's got a little bit of the sort of melodic, hard rock, commercially side of metal we were doing on Set the World on Fire. It's got this sort of thrashy vibe of the Alice in Hell records. Not the song Alice in Hell, which was more melodic, more of the thrashier stuff. And then it's got some thrashy melodic stuff of Never Neverland. So it wasn't intentional, but I did bring in our bassist Rich Hinks to work on the album with me and co-write the music for the record. And he's a very old school Annihilator fan. And he directed the ship as far as saying, that's a beautiful riff, Jeff, but not for this record. So he would guide me into the Waters stuff and away from the sort of Mustaine, Hetfield, Slayer sort of fan writing that I was doing, in the sense of, I'm a fan of metal, so when I hear a cool song by a band I like, I'm going to accidentally write a little bit like it. He steered me away from that and back to what I was doing when I was less influenced by other bands.
So what would you say vocally? vocally, what is this coming out as? Like if you have to pick all the albums in your career.
The last one we did is completely not like this one as far as vocals. Vocals was this sort of fan side of Waters coming out, so you had the Mustaine's and the Hetfield wannabe kind of stuff. Now it's back to the King of the Kill and the Alice in Hell vibe, where a lot of people don't know, but Alice in Hell and Never Neverland, I demoed and sang and wrote most of the songs on vocals way before we got singers. And did it. So it's a little bit more.
And speaking of Alice in Hell, right?
Yeah.
It always intrigued me. Why did you put the bridge? Why is there like, you have Rampage singing the whole song, the whole album, but then Dubois is actually singing the bridge, you know, that high part. It's
actually pieced with 4 singers. There's myself doing the choruses, there's Randy Rampage singing the verses. A singer that auditioned named Dennis DeBow out in Vancouver auditioned for the band for a few weeks, and we recorded a few songs, demos with him. And we liked his singing on that one part.
So you just
2 lines.
That's it.
Yeah, so we just kept it and gave him a cut or whatever off it, a piece of it, and
that's cool.
And we said we can't redo that. That's too unique. So we had a lot of different singers on that one song.
It's a very cool story.
John Bates, the original writer with me of that song, he had something on there too. So it was really interesting.
And going back to the album, okay, vocally, you know, you're going for King of the Kill, right?
I just didn't want to be too fanboyish on the vocals because I'm a big fan. So I tried to just zoom in and go, no, that's how so-and-so would do it. Do it how you would do it. And then I try a few times and go, yeah, that's Waters. You know what I mean?
So it's, okay, all right, got it.
Yeah.
What about guitar? Okay, in the new album, is it what's the guitar tone like? Is there a lot of soloing, a lot of rhythmic playing?
Yeah.
What were you after on this new album?
It's kind of like I think the best of those first 3 records, but it's not a best of in the sense where you would say, let's do a song like that or like that. It's more of a best of in the vibe of it, what we were doing, what I was doing when I was writing those records, as far as what I was thinking. And I think that's where the difference is, because I had somebody there to steer me away from the typical stuff I'd been doing lately and guide me back to what he thought I was doing in the earlier days.
What about song structure? Is it verse, chorus, or are you just like going off on different tangents?
That was the other thing too, is you get sucked into as a songwriter. I write songs for other artists and a lot of different things for many years, and you get sucked into understandably, if you format things, which almost every band does, there's a verse, pre-chorus, chorus, or whatever. There's 5 different ways of writing these things. The earlier days, I did that, but I just said, you know, I don't care if this doesn't make sense. Let's just throw this in there for no reason.
The craft dinner.
Yeah, well, no, that's actually structured, formatted. That's got everything structured, but
unless you're going for beef stroganoff.
Brains, what's called word salad. We had songs called brain dance, things like that just have parts in there that don't make any sense.
That's what I mean.
Flow.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Okay. All right.
They just accidentally get in there now, and I don't overrule myself and say no. It has to be more songwriting structured.
What about Lyrical Themes? What inspired you this time around? Last time it was, Suicide Society, or it was more of a social
This was
theme.
more of a theme. They finally got a theme on a record the whole way through, and it's, I didn't want to just try to do a theme based on a book or a story or a movie or whatever, but I just took a theme out of the mind. Like good, bad, craziness, addictions, just everything to do with the mind. So every song has something to do with good or bad or interesting things about the mind.
And is it a concept album, or is it just strictly individual
concept
songs?
As far as, no, it doesn't flow
a loose
song to
concept.
song. Yeah, it all goes back to, okay, well, this song's about that. Okay, that's to do with the mind. This song's about that. It's about something else, but to do with the mind.
Okay.
Being nuts, too.
All right, okay. I know you're a huge Eddie Van Halen fan.
Yep.
Where does Eddie Van Halen show up in all the Annihilator albums? I mean, where's the little hints of Eddie Van Halen that show up?
Well, in the beginning, when I heard Van Halen as a young teenager, all my friends were trying to learn Malmsteen, Vai, Satch, Randy Rhoads, and Van Halen. And I never even tried to learn Van Halen's soloing stuff because it was just, I knew it was too unique and too huge and influential. I just wanted to enjoy the music and what he was doing. He was playing rhythm guitar like no one else, lead guitar like no one else, and writing songs like no one else. He was one of the few in history to do all those things brilliantly. What I got off him, I think, was one thing was the sound of the solos, which since 2005 we had an album called Schizo Deluxe. Since then to now, on the solos, I'll usually use some of the pedals and amps or things that he's used, and some of his guitars.
Yeah.
I think it's just more of a, with him, it's just more of a, I don't know how to explain it.
Pick a song in your catalog that song there, that's my Eddie Van Halen
There's no
influence.
songs that directly relate to Van Halen, which is ironic because it's my favorite guitar player.
Yeah.
It's more of
A vibe?
yeah, and what the
energy?
main influence is that he would just sit there and the tape would roll and he would play a solo.
Yeah.
Whereas I would structure and rehearse the solo over and over again. I think since 2005, I sort of got what he was doing and said, I'm not going to play like him, no chance, but I'm just going to roll the tape and just go. And that's a lot of my solos now are just one takes.
What about Dave Mustaine? Is there any Dave Mustaine in there?
Well, there always was when I was singing, because that's one of my
Guitar
favorite
playing?
guys. There's a few. Actually, the Mustaineisms came in on very early albums, and they were directly related to, not Peace Sells, but it was So Far So Good, you know, that earlier Megadeth area. They came in a little bit, and then, but mostly a little bit of vocals lately. Not this time.
Okay. What about reuniting maybe like an Anthrax fest with all the singers and Dave Patton and Rampage and just like bring everybody on?
I'll just say this. There's some ex-members, and there's a lot of ex-members, because I hire different people. I just hire guys as I go. Some stay, some don't, for many different reasons. They join other bands, or they just lose interest, or they have a better job, or have a job back home.
Sure.
When I went back to Vancouver and Victoria, it's been the first time I've been back there, there was some ex-members, quite a few, that couldn't come out to the shows for various medical reasons. And some of them I met, fantastic, doing well and stuff like that, but a lot of them are not even in the music business. They're not even... So as much... I tried that with the Never Neverland lineup, the second lineup. We tried it a couple of years ago. I called everybody up, and there really was almost nobody able physically to do it. So...
Yeah.
We're getting old. I was the young one.
We're getting old.
I'm 51. I'm 51, and some of those guys are pushing 60. So when it's different when you take, like me, I've been touring since 1989 nonstop, pretty well. So when you take someone who is talented and in shape and young and all that, and then you say, here's 25 years off from touring, and you can't put them back in, they'll have a heart attack. It's a life that you sort of get used to on the road. You can't throw someone back in and say, all right, here you go, it's been 25 years.
Yeah.
Get on a bus, fly everywhere, do all these crazy things, and it's physically not easy.
Yeah. Last question. Okay, the big Canadian four. That's why I wore this shirt today.
Yeah.
I know you're a supporter.
There's more than four.
Well, we'll just say, let's say the big Canadian bands. Like I'm talking to Dave Carlo tomorrow, actually on Saturday.
Razor, Anvil, Exciter. Who else?
Voivod,
Annihilator. Well, we got Pile Drivers whatever you call it. He's back.
Would you support some sort of
There's quite a
festival? I know you tried to put something together. It's not easy. It's just not easy.
No, I tried, but it just becomes... most of the bands we're talking about are part-timers that have jobs, and they come back and do festivals or things. Anvil's, I think, the only band that's actually doing this full-time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard because to draw people away from their jobs and their things like, oh, they want the paycheck. So it's kind of... It's not easy to put it together. I tried last year to put about 6 bands together, but it was usually...
And there's got to be a return, too. I mean, there's got to be...
Well, Anvil have been going, and they, regardless of what they've been doing or the level or the quality or whatever the heck it is, they haven't stopped. No. They just keep going. Robin and Lips just keep going. So,
and they love it, too.
Yeah, that's their life,
love.
and they do it. So I think the two of us are about the only ones that I see that are active full-time, right?
Well, there you have it. Jeff Waters, Annihilator. Thanks for being on, Jeff. Right here.
Thank you again.
Thank you again. We catched him on tour in Europe with Death Angel, Testament. We have a lot of European fans, by the way.
And all summer in Europe.
All summer in Europe. And then they're coming back to Canada and North America.
Eventually.
Well, we're just trying to put it
out
there.
To Europe.
We're trying to put it out there.
Back to Europe, back to Europe.
All right. Thanks, guys.
I think you know this. If you don't, I wrote the word. The word is mine. It's called kill.